Welcome to the Next Generation News Network, where the next generation of sane minds align. Fresh faces, fresh minds is what this failing world needs most. Add to the conversation and enjoy. If you haven't heard of George Soros, the destroyer of Western civilization, this clip from Fox will serve to be very informational about the things he spends his billions of dollars that he swindled from the world on. He spends his money riling up people within different countries that he wants to see destroyed as we know it to be, and has them wreak hell on the streets, destroying the nation from the inside out. This man needs to be brought to justice.
O'Reilly, thanks for watching us tonight. George Soros, the Democratic Party, and Hillary Clinton. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. As you may know, the 85-year-old billionaire is a far-left fanatic whose open society organization advocates no borders anywhere in the world. According to Soros, everyone should be able to go wherever they want for any reason and stay there. Recently, hackers believed to be backed by Russia exposed more than 2,000 documents connected to Soros and his open society. The information very disturbing. Soros has given about $10 million to groups opposed to the policies of Israel. He has funded individuals accusing Israel of war crimes. He has given a variety of grants to people who literally hate the Jewish state of Israel. In addition, Soros has funded investigations of individuals here in the USA who are opposed to radical Islam. People like Pamela Geller, Frank Gaffney, Liz Cheney, and Cliff May. Mr. May will be here in just a few moments. Finally, George Soros has donated about $13 million to the Democrats this election cycle. That includes $7 million to a Hillary Clinton super PAC. 12 years ago, here's what Mrs. Clinton said about George Soros.
We have been given an extraordinary blessing, and at this moment in time, our country needs us. And we need people like George Soros, who is fearless and willing to step up when it counts.
Now, to be fair, that soundbite is dated, but the Clinton campaign is accepting money from Soros this year, as stated, and that may present a problem for the secretary. You may remember that Donald Trump got hammered by the media for not disavowing David Duke quickly enough. Duke, of course, a far-right hater. But now we have a far-left individual, Soros, bent on harming Israel, America's strongest ally in the Middle East. So how will the media cover that? Again, Soros, one of the biggest donors to the Democratic Party. Talking Points believes the mainstream press will largely ignore the Soros story, even though it's very important. Does the Democratic Party advocate open borders worldwide, a situation that would make it easy for Islamic terrorists to kill at will anywhere? Does the Democratic Party support the enemies of Israel? Do Jewish voters even know what's happening? Again, a major situation brought to you by Russian hackers and presented to a largely apathetic press when it comes to reporting the truth about the upcoming election. Summing up, the Democratic Party must comment on George Soros and his activities. We've requested a statement from the DNC, and we will let you know tomorrow if they reply. And that's a memo. Now for the top story reaction. Joining us from Washington is the aforementioned Cliff May, president of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. First of all, do you know anything more about Soros and his crew stalking you or whatever they're doing?
Well, it wasn't news that we were being trolled, targeted for delegitimization and defamation. And as you know, Bill, I run a think tank, a policy institute formed after 9/11 that focuses on national security. That means we focus largely on jihadism, Islamism, radical Islam, call it what you will. We knew there were these various individuals on Twitter. They were tweeting against us. They were publishing articles, mostly in left-wing journals, about us, trying to dig up dirt on us. What we didn't know until last weekend was that George Soros was giving them hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to do this. That came as a surprise.
All right, so they're paid assassins to try to get you and the other people we mentioned. Now, I don't understand why Soros would single you out when your organization is basically exposing a major threat to the United States and the world, Islamic Jihad. That's what you do. So why would Soros want to muzzle you or hurt you?
You know, this was worse 5 years ago than it is now, but it's not over. There are a lot of those who think, look, this is violent extremism. It has no relationship whatsoever to Islam. You can't even talk about that. If you say, look, not that we have a problem with Islam, but I would say we have a problem with movements within Islam, then you must be an Islamophobe. And I don't mind if people want to debate me, argue with me. People come on your show and debate. It's very edifying. It's very entertaining. But what they want to do when they call you an Islamophobe is they want to shut you down. They want to get you out of the debate.
It's like a homophobe or a bigot, a racist and all that. But why does he want to shut you down? Is George Soros loony enough to think that an open border world, a borderless world, where ISIS could move wherever they want with any problem, is a safe world, is a good thing? Is he that crazy?
Apparently, there's even evidence to show that he looks upon the refugee crisis in Europe, and it's a terrible crisis, as an opportunity for him to further his ideas and his policies. And as you pointed out, in a Middle East that is melting down, where you have genocide taking place among Christian, Yazidi, and other communities, what he's doing is targeting the one open society in the whole region, and that's Israel. And it's particularly ironic that as he's pursuing what is a kind of McCarthyism, he is the founder of the Open Societies Foundation. How does an open society foundation try to shut down debate, try to demonize and delegitimize Israel, and try to do all the kinds of things it's doing, like taking advantage of the refugee crisis?
I think it's safe to say that by taking $13 million from George Soros, the Democratic Party has some explaining to do. Do they not?
Look, imagine if the Koch brothers, I don't know them, and that if they tried to demonize groups on the right, groups on the left, because they were too soft on the Muslim Brotherhood. This would be a big story, it seems to me, in the liberal press. Why isn't it, as you suggest, why isn't this a story, except in conservative media, that you have George Soros pursuing these things? And yes, it is something that should be considered, since he is a huge supporter of all these left-wing causes, and yes, of Democrats.
Well, he's the second biggest donor, I believe, at this point for the Democratic Party this election cycle. Yet, as you pointed out, and we're not a conservative show, as you know, Mr. May. I mean, this is a really interesting story. I mean, how an American billionaire can pay people hundreds of thousands of dollars to try to attack you and other people who object to Islamic terrorism. I mean, that's the crux of the story. And then that very same person involved in that and delegitimizing Israel is one of the biggest funders of the Democratic Party. That's huge. That's a huge story. That would be like the Klan coming up with money and pumping it into the Republican Party. I mean, think about it. The Klan, a racist crew, all right, who wants to put Jews and blacks and minorities in a bad position, okay? And it's horrifying what they do, all right? As opposed to Soros, a far-left crank who wants to harm Israel and wants to shut you up. I mean, I don't understand the big difference between Soros and David Duke. Do you?
I don't, and I think that members of the more liberal and more progressive press ought to be answering why this isn't newsworthy, why only certain things are newsworthy, and why somebody far to the left, and further to the left than they are, why they won't investigate, report, cover, and talk about these things.
Where is this?
And where is it? I don't think you're going to see it in tomorrow's papers.
Now, to be fair, we looked for connections between Soros and President Obama. We did not find any. In fact, the two had a falling out of some kind. But Hillary Clinton, you know, she's $7 million already into her campaign from Soros. So, again, we need to get to the bottom of this. And, Mr. Mayor, we appreciate you coming on this evening.
Glad.
Next on the rundown, a Democrat will reply to our investigation. Then later, President Obama orders more accused terrorists released from Guantanamo Bay. Continue now with our lead story. Radical leftist George Soros, donating $13 million to the Democratic Party so far, is exposed by Russian hackers. Here now in New York City, Dr. Jeannie Zaino, who teaches political science at Iona College. As a Democrat, how do you react to what we just told the folks?
You know, I mean, look, George Soros is a billionaire philanthropist. He has raised an awful lot of money for democratic causes, causes that people on the left care about. He has donated money, you know, and you look at all the people who have raised money who haven't donated, all the billionaires who aren't giving. And you have to give him credit for that. And then I think you look at the hacking and you see some of the things coming out and it makes people uncomfortable. But I'm not sure you can blame George Soros or Hillary Clinton for the fact that we live in a political system that allows money to be spent in this way.
You're deflecting the issue. So what you're saying is Mussolini made the Italian trains run on time, so you have to give him credit, even though he was a fascist pig.
I am half Italian, so I'm not going to respond to that.
But that argument doesn't hold weight, because what we're dealing with now is we're dealing with a man who we now know provided hundreds of thousands of dollars to discredit Americans like Cliff May and Liz Cheney, who were simply trying to protect the country against Islamic terrorism, number one. Number two, is donated millions of dollars to try to run down Israel. All right? So now, how, as a Democrat, do you process those two facts?
You know, look, if you look at the foundation, it is $13 billion in 33 years. That is an awful lot of money. It has gone an awful lot of places. When you're dealing with that amount of money, yes, it's going to go places that make certain people uncomfortable.
But this is a Soros-directed. This is his philosophy.
Absolutely.
Now, the Democratic Party is accepting his money.
Absolutely. Right? As the Republican Party would as well.
Let's keep it with the Democrats, Doctor, with all due respect. All right? They're accepting the money. Do they have an obligation to explain whether they support Soros's vision of open borders everywhere in the United States, his vision of denigrating Israel? Does the Democratic Party, Donna Brazile as the head, have an obligation to explain that to you, a Democrat?
I think they absolutely have to be transparent about where that money is coming from and what it is directed to. I absolutely agree with that.
But we know where it's coming from and where it was directed to. Do they have to explain why they're accepting
it? Well, you know, I don't think the argument that the Democratic Party is anti-Israel is going to hold any water. So, you know, I do believe in transparency. If they are accepting money, which they are, they need to say where it's coming from and where it's going. And if you want that money regulated, it would be incumbent on all of us to get together, which I firmly believe, and regulate that money.
Well, look, that's a whole different debate.
But it's not a whole different debate.
Yes, it is, because this
if it's not regulated, how do you control
this investigation is very personal. It's not a policy investigation. Here's a man giving an enormous amount of money to the Democrats, who believes that we should not protect ourselves at all and allow anyone in the world in here at any time. That's flat out dangerous. And as a man who's funding anti-Israel people to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. That's personal. And I'm surprised as a Democrat that you don't take it personally.
I do take it.
It puts you, your family, and every Jew in Israel in danger.
I do take it personally. But here is also a man who has funded women's issues, equal rights,
all right, we're back to the trains
justice.
On time again.
But, you know, but listen, there is a point to be made. If that money is not going in a place that the Democratic Party is comfortable with, then yes, it should be discussed by Democrats. But that is not all the money, and that's not where all the money is going to.
Nobody is saying it's all the money. You can give money to poor children and still be a villain. And still be a villain.
Absolutely, but I don't think that George Soros qualifies as a villain.
You don't?
No, and I would like to see the evidence that suggests that he does. You show me that evidence.
You just heard Cliff May, an American citizen.
And I respect Cliff.
Who he's trying to destroy because of his free speech opinion that the jihadists are bad for America.
I am not in favor
That's not a bad thing.
I am not in favor of destroying Cliff May or anybody
else. Well, that's what Soros is doing.
But this is not what the Democrats are responsible for. What are they responsible for? If they are getting donations, they're responsible for being transparent about where they're coming from and what they're targeted to.
And explaining why they're accepting them.
And where the money is going, Bill. Where is the money going? It is not going to discredit Cliff May.
If this were the opposite, if some guy, some kooky far-right person was given this kind of money to the Republicans, this would be page one in every newspaper, and CNN would lead with it 24/7.
I would say the same thing. But you know what? In terms of the media, it's after ratings. It's not after that.
All right.
Do not allow yourselves to be fooled by this demon of a man. Open your eyes widely at everything going on around us. Dive deep into the issues at hand and see for yourselves what is really happening rather than simply going along with the narrative given to us by the mainstream. This has been a Next Generation News Network production. If you would like to see more videos like these in the future, please like, comment and subscribe.